Your subconscious mind is trying to guide you, but it speaks in the language of fear and discomfort. If you're brave enough to look beyond the surface, you'll see that each terrifying message is an invitation to grow, to change, and to align with God's higher purpose for your life. Fear is often the doorway to spiritual breakthroughs. Your subconscious is trying to communicate with you, and it can be terrifying to confront these hidden truths. But God uses these moments to remind you that the most profound changes in life come from facing our deepest fears with faith. When your subconscious mind starts sending you terrifying thoughts, it may feel like you're being pulled into a dark place. But darkness is often the backdrop for God's greatest revelations. Trust that the fear you feel is a necessary step toward our healing and transformation. Your subconscious doesn't speak lightly. It only speaks when it has something important to say. If you're afraid of the messages it's sending you, it might be time to stop running from them. God's messages are meant to bring you closer to your true self, even if they seem terrifying at first. Every fear that arises from your subconscious holds a message for you. It's terrifying to face them, but when you do, you're allowing God to clear the path for something greater. Listen to your fears and trust that they are leading you towards spiritual growth and divine understanding. Sometimes your subconscious mind will present you with terrifying thoughts, not because they are true, but because they are stirring you to examine your life. God's voice is always within you, and those terrifying moments are often the ones where you need to listen the most. The terrifying messages from your subconscious are often the ones that hold the key to your soul's deepest desires. When you face them, you face your true self, and you begin to align more fully with God's purpose for your life. Don't run from the fear. Embrace it and let it transform you. When you feel terror rising from the depths of your subconscious, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you are being prepared for something greater. The fear is part of the process of spiritual awakening, and through it, you will come to understand God's plan for you. The subconscious mind doesn't lie. If it's sending you terrifying signals, it's because there's something important for you to address. God's messages are often wrapped in the unsettling, because only through facing discomfort can we grow stronger in faith and spirit. Sometimes the fear we feel comes from the messages our subconscious is trying to send us. But fear doesn't have to control you. When you trust in God's guidance, you'll find that even the most terrifying messages are the ones that lead you to your true purpose. The subconscious is the gateway to understanding your deepest emotions, fears, and desires. It speaks to you in terrifying ways because it wants you to confront the truth. And when you do, you'll discover that what was once a source of fear becomes a source of spiritual strength. When the subconscious mind sends you terrifying signals, it's often a sign that change is on the horizon. God's messages aren't meant to scare you. They are meant to prepare you for what's next. Listen, learn, and let the fear guide you to something better. Your subconscious holds the answers to questions you've been afraid to ask. The terrifying messages it sends are an invitation to uncover the truth. Embrace the fear, because in the end, it will lead you to the healing and guidance you need, and the messages from God that will light your path. The mind will sometimes create terrifying thoughts in an attempt to warn you of something unknown. But those fears can also be the gateway to the most profound spiritual growth. Trust that God is with you, even in those terrifying moments, and that the messages from your subconscious are part of your divine journey. The subconscious mind can be a frightening place, but it's also where God whispers the most important truths. When you face the terror head-on, you'll realize that it's not there to harm you. It's there to help you grow and align with the higher purpose that has always been part of your destiny. Have you ever felt paralyzed by fear, as if your subconscious mind was holding you hostage? That fear is often the beginning of spiritual transformation. When you trust in God's guidance and listen to what your subconscious is telling you, you will be led toward your greatest breakthroughs. The subconscious doesn't always make sense, and sometimes its messages can be downright terrifying. But in every fear is a hidden truth, and behind every terrifying thought is the light of God's guidance. Trust that the journey through fear will lead you to a place of peace and spiritual awakening. Your subconscious is a silent messenger, constantly whispering truths that you may be too afraid to face. When it tries to break through, it can be terrifying. But those messages are not meant to frighten you. They are meant to set you free. Listen closely, for God is speaking to you in the language of your innermost thoughts. Have you ever felt a deep sense of dread or anxiety, as if something in your life isn't quite right? That feeling may be your subconscious urging you to pay attention to a message that could change everything. It's terrifying because the truth often is, but it's through this terror that we find the strength to transform and grow in God's light. What if the fear you feel isn't just fear, but a divine message trying to break through? Your subconscious often sends you warnings, signs of inner conflict, and unresolved emotions. When you listen to this, the fear dissipates and clarity emerges, revealing God's guidance in the chaos of your thoughts. Sometimes the deepest parts of our mind hold secrets that we're not ready to confront. Your subconscious may be screaming at you in the most subtle ways. These messages can be terrifying because they reveal truths we aren't prepared to face. But in those truths lies the pathway to spiritual awakening, guided by God. The subconscious mind holds more power than we give it credit for. It tries to communicate with you in symbols, feelings, and even fear. When you're scared by a thought or a dream, take a moment to reflect. It's possible that God is trying to reach you through the deepest layers of your being. If you've been ignoring the subtle nudges of your subconscious, you might soon find yourself overwhelmed by a wave of fear. That fear is not something to escape from, but something to lean into. God's messages are often disguised as terrifying thoughts, challenging you to trust in a higher purpose. Your subconscious mind doesn't make mistakes. Every fear, every anxiety is a sign pointing you towards something you need to address. Sometimes those signs come in terrifying forms because they are powerful enough to move you out of your comfort zone into the life God has planned for you. Fear is the language of the subconscious, and it often speaks in a voice that sounds terrifying. But behind that voice is something more profound: God's whispers. These whispers are meant to guide you, even when they come wrapped in fear. When you understand the message, you'll realize it was meant to strengthen you. Your subconscious is working overtime to get your attention. It's easy to ignore those feelings, but if you stop long enough to truly listen, you might hear God's voice amidst the chaos. The truth can be terrifying, but it's also liberating. It's time to let go of your fears and embrace the messages that are waiting for you. The mind's most terrifying whispers often come when we're on the brink of change. If your subconscious is sending you frightening signals, it might be because you're standing at the edge of a spiritual awakening. Don't back away from the fear, walk through it, and you'll find that God's messages will guide you to a better place. When the subconscious sends unsettling messages, it's often because you've been neglecting something important. The terror you feel is a sign of spiritual imbalance. But if you trust in God's guidance, you can navigate through the chaos and find the peace you have been seeking. Your subconscious doesn't hold back when it wants you to listen. It's terrifying because it brings up emotions and truths that you'd rather not face. But the fear is only temporary. God's messages are meant to bring healing, not harm. The darkness will pass when you allow the light of truth to illuminate your path. Sometimes the messages your subconscious sends are the most terrifying of all. But they are not meant to break you. They are meant to awaken you. When you face those fears head on, you'll realize that the terrifying thoughts were just the doorway to a deeper understanding of your soul's journey. The mind speaks in symbols, and the subconscious whispers warnings and wisdom, often in terrifying forms. But if you can decipher those messages, you'll uncover a divine plan for your life that has always been waiting for you. God's messages may come in a terrifying package, but they are always for your growth. Have you ever woken up from a dream feeling deeply unsettled, as if something wasn't right? That unsettling feeling is your subconscious trying to tell you something. It's terrifying because it reveals what we don't want to face. But if you trust in God, you'll discover that those fears are the keys to your awakening.